Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of 3. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great. Hi, this is Brittany with Go Get Great. So today I am joined by guest Kristina Schmitt from TAC, the Achievement Center. So I'm going to pass it over to her to introduce herself a little bit more.
Thanks, Brittany. I'm very happy and very excited to be here. I'm Kristina Schmitt. I am a facilitator and coach with the Achievement Center. And so ultimately what I do is I work with businesses and organizations to help them achieve better results. And that's through people development. And so we do leadership training and coaching and overall just culture development and helping people improve themselves personally and professionally.
That sounds amazing. And as someone with an HR background that's worked in a few different businesses, something that's much needed.
Definitely. Yes.
So today we're going to be talking not necessarily about workplace culture, but about how actually being a parent can help you develop your leadership skills and prepare you for running a business. So I wanted to ask you first, for you, which came first, mom or business?
So I was a leader first.
Okay.
So I worked in manufacturing for many, many years. And my last job when I was doing that was being a plant manager. So like a general manager of an automotive manufacturing facility. So that came first. And then I started becoming a parent and realized, wow, it's kind of the same thing.
Okay. So what prompted you to start your business?
So some of it was actually parenting. So I was working a lot of hours and it just wasn't conducive to the home life that I wanted. And ultimately, the parts of my job that I liked were helping people, developing people, making the culture better. And I wasn't getting to do as much of it as I wanted to. And so I started helping businesses with continuous improvement. So lean manufacturing, which is just ways to make things better. But I was missing that piece too. And so in 2021, I think, whatever that was, I started working with the Achievement Center. And so I was able to start really helping people build the skills to implement these changes in their organization. And so just really working on that behavior change part of it. And that's been amazing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you find that it was a really natural transition? Like, how did you know that it was time to leave your corporate world and try and do something different?
So there was a couple of transitions there. So it was time. I was frustrated. I was not in probably the best headspace, we'll say. And I took some time to kind of transition into it and started just doing some side work is kind of what I would call it. I was also pregnant at the time, so I didn't go headlong into it right away. And I took some time to kind of develop in there. But as far as when I joined up with the Achievement Center, I just knew I needed to do more. And I had this pull, and I just knew with every ounce of my being that I needed to be doing something like this. So like even back when I was in manufacturing, every time I'd go away to like a leadership course, I was like, I want to be those people, but who am I to go do that? So it's funny.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome, I think, is really big for a lot of women, especially that want to start businesses. You know, who am I to go and do those things? And can I do those things? So being a mom, you weren't even a mom yet when you made that transition, but you feel that some of those skills kind of helped you through that process?
So I was a mom. I was pregnant with my second.
Oh, your second.
My
okay.
second, yeah. So I had my first there. So I had been being a mom. And something I think my dad told me ages ago, but he was a teacher and he said, you know, when I became a parent, I became a better teacher. And so that always kind of was in the back of my mind somewhere. And, you know, it just kind of, I was almost excited to become a parent because I was like, maybe it'll make me a better leader. But now that I'm actually doing a lot of this work, it's amazing how much like the skills and like even what they teach you in parenting books is all the same stuff as what I'm teaching and helping people develop in leadership.
Okay.
So just in terms of it's all about relationship.
Okay.
So I'm actually reading a parenting book right now, and I'm obsessed with it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, tell us, what is it you're reading?
So it's called Good Inside. It's by Dr. Becky Kennedy.
Okay.
So it's basically like understanding that we look for the good inside, or we know that their people are good inside ultimately. And that's really what we end up teaching when we're talking about leadership, because it is about trusting the person and building that trust. And ultimately, you wouldn't work on building trust or building a relationship with somebody unless you felt they could do it, or you felt that they were the right person for it, and you're going to keep working with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just funny how the skills are all the same thing. And even everything she says in that book is all the same thing. So it's pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would say probably the relationship building is the biggest thing that is similar between motherhood and business, or do you have some other examples of how they kind of help?
Well, it's definitely the relationship, but I mean, ultimately, like, your job as a parent is to produce effective adults, right?
True.
That is your job as a parent. And our job as leaders or as business owners, when you're working with your team, is to produce effective adult employees. So it's ultimately the same goal. And the reality is we're people whether we're at work or we're at home. And so children go through the same developmental thing as adults do and adolescents do, and it's all the same. So we're still dealing with humans, and that's kind of the crux of it.
No, you know what? That makes a lot of sense, actually. I've worked in hospitality for many years before this business, and you know what? I've seen some adult employees have temper tantrums that could rival my toddlers.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Oh, it's funny. My sister is actually a principal, and we talk about that all the time because she's got all the kids in there, but you've also got teachers in there that are doing all the same stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes I think it's almost harder to work with adults.
Well, because they have actually more programs in. And so we all have behavior programs in place. And I think over 50% of them are in place by age 5. And once we're adults, they're just harder to even get at. So it is harder because we're a little stuck in our ways when we get older.
I was going to say kids are a little bit more moldable in that sense. Yeah. They're willing to like learn and try new things, whereas adults are not necessarily like that. And I think that is one of the really big struggles in a workplace specifically, because anytime you have a job, you need to develop those new skills. And if you're resistant to that kind of training and learning, and sometimes the negative feedback, although it should be constructive, but the negative feedback that comes with that, it can make it really challenging.
Yeah. And it's also, though, it's kind of two ways, right? It's how the giver gives the feedback, but how the receiver is receiving it. So like our mental headspace play into it so much, like on both sides. Like if I'm trying to give you feedback, but I don't think you can do it, it's not going to be a very effective feedback. It's not going to be with your best interest in mind. And that's I think the key is that when we focus on connection and relationships, we ultimately have the person's best interest in mind, and we're doing it to help them, not to hurt them.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So in terms of like self-employed individuals, because we have a lot of people that work for themselves, the feedback often comes to you in way of what your clients are telling you. So do you have any tips and tricks to kind of help us as entrepreneurs train our clients to give us feedback in a way that is good for us?
As far as feedback to like what can help us do better?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it, maybe it's twofold. We have to get good at asking questions. So we need to understand, like how do we really dive in and maybe kind of twig on like well, now what could I do to make that better? And just kind of get better at opening that up, but also that building of trust. If we're like in my client space, like it's ultimately I'm working one-on-one with these people to build trust and with with their employees too. So we have to build trust. Then nobody's going to want to work with me if they don't trust me. And so that's, ultimately the biggest part. And so if you've kind of got that open communication both ways, you can get that feedback well, because you've got a partnership there. And so whether you're selling like leadership skills or website help and social media help, or like cookies, people want to trust, like I love going to a restaurant and saying, well, what do you recommend? Or what's your favorite? And then having them buying that thing that's their favorite because I know and I trust them to give me the best. So it's all about the trust, I think.
And yeah, it 100% is. And that ties a lot into what I do for my job, because social media is more than just telling people to buy this. It's about helping you develop that relationship with the people that are following you to build the trust, so that when you say, I have this thing that's going to do amazing things for you, they go, yeah, I believe you. Let's do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's probably a huge element of like putting out a persona, but being authentic, like that authenticity piece, which is huge in every way, actually.
Yeah.
So
transitioning a little bit away from that topic, can you share your best tip for helping you balance life and business? You're a busy mom. You've got a really successful business. How do you handle it all?
So I do a lot of planning.
Okay.
Not the best planner. So I've been starting with little small habits. So I've got like some good habits around, my morning routine. So I've really been developing it this year, actually. So like I've gotten the morning routine where I get a little exercise in, then I do some housework stuff, and then I get everybody ready, and then I wake everyone up.
Okay.
So those habits, like whatever works for you is ultimately what it is. But for me, small, tiny habits, like people I know are reading the Atomic Habits. I've read the 5 a.m. Club. So like all of those are all talking about the same thing. And it's really what we promote as well, but just tiny incremental habits that will build into that. I also do a lot of meal planning.
Oh, yeah.
and then just really like structuring my day as much as I can. And this is where I'm still working, building small habits, but doing that weekly planning and daily planning and trying to focus. Like I'm very productive in the morning, kind of brain dead in the afternoon. So I get my hard work done first. And then I move into kind of a little bit either stuff I like in the afternoon because it'll keep me motivated, or stuff that's easy and doesn't frustrate me.
Okay. I like that. And
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of reading and things like that too about building habits. Atomic Habits was a good one. I'll have to check out the 5 a.m. Club. I haven't heard of that one. I'm actually reading a book right now by Jen Sincero. So a little while ago, I read You Are a Badass. So that was her original. And then she's got a second book out now called Badass Habits. So it's all about helping you implement those things. So it's a good read too. And really developing those habits is key, and giving yourself the time to get them in place. Like I'm very much it's Monday, it's a new week. Let me do these 17 new things this week. And that is the recipe for disaster. Every time.
Yes. I always joke I've been working on my personal productivity and morning routine since about 2018. So it's 2023 and I got it somewhat honed in.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's something that's always ever developing and changing too, because as humans and as business owners, nothing is static for us personally or with our business. Like we're constantly changing, and we have to keep adapting to respond to that change around us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the different seasons of life and like different seasons of our businesses too. Like when you're just starting out, it's going to look way different than when you're growing, or when you're just trying to bring new employees on or put a change in place. Like everything looks different all the time. So got to be flexible with it.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things too is that entrepreneurship, like motherhood, is very much a roller coaster. And like one minute you feel like you're on top of the world, and your next you're like, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? Like this is so hard and so frustrating. So when you're in some of those down moments, what do you do to pump yourself back up? How do you turn a bad day into a good one?
So I think depends on the day probably, but sometimes there's a little bit of sometimes when you just need a rest. You need a break. So take a walk, start reading something because it'll reinvigorate your mind. Or like I have a coach as well. And so a lot of times just chatting with my coach will help me. So just a lot of different things. Sometimes just chatting with a friend or chatting with a loved one. But those are kind of my big things. But sometimes it is just looking at, you know what, I've done it before. I can do it again. I've got the more experience you have, you can say, I've done this before. I can do it. So that's helped me as well.
And does the same apply for motherhood when you're like, oh, I love you, but like
all the time. Yes. So yeah, sometimes I think I'm totally winning, and then it's like, what have I done? And I'm yelling at somebody. And so, but yeah, I think, definitely taking a break, take a deep breath. That helps, and just venting with your mom friends and that sort of thing. So the beautiful thing is my coach is also a mom, and so we vent about both.
Yeah. That helps a lot.
Yes,
it's nice when they
absolutely.
can relate. So a question I get asked a lot is, it seems like you involve your kids so much in your business. And I was like, well, yeah, because my business is my life and my life is my business. And they're very interconnected in that way. Do you find that you have the same interconnection?
I do. I don't necessarily have my kids there, but they're in mind when I plan. So when I plan for my week, I encompass my life in there. It's not just here's my work plan. It's like, well, my son's birthday is coming up, so I have to make sure I figure out what I'm doing for that and, work in time to get gifts for that and whatever else. And so you get the kids' appointments in place and make sure that somebody's picking them up from daycare on time.
It's important.
those little things. So I do run my life like a whole life. So business and home.
That's good.
Yeah.
And do your kids know and understand what it is that you do for work?
I don't think my family understands. My adult family understand what I do. But so my husband works with tractors and things. So they know, they're like, Daddy works. Mommy, do you work? And I'm like, yes, Mommy works. So they do a bit. I try to tell them a bit of what I do, but I think at this point they don't fully understand. But I'm trying to slip them in like little business things, and I'm trying to goal set with them. So like I'm trying to use some of the things in my parenting that I do in my courses as well, just to, I think it'll help them overall, but I think it'll help us as a family kind of derive to where we want to be too.
Yep. I think that's a really good point too. Like my kids see me on my computer and my phone all the time. Like I'm ignoring them and I'm like, no, I promise you I'm working. But I don't really even think they understand work in general because their dad works night shift. So he works while they're sleeping and he sleeps while they're awake. So they're just like, Daddy sleeps.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're going to grow up and think that humans don't need jobs. It was like probably not a great parenting strategy.
They're going to be a family of entrepreneurs.
Let's hope so. Yeah. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about personal development, but what else is it that you're working on that's helping you in your personal life or your business life right now?
Oh boy. I'm always working on different ways to like meal plan and to do that better and to meal prep so that I've got everything ready. Big time always working on personal productivity, but I'm also working on kind of it's like a lot of mindset stuff and a lot of so faith is a very important part of my life. So I'm working a lot on developing my faith more, which has really honed in where I'm going in my life as well. So yeah, so it's always a work in progress there.
It's good though. It's nice to be learning new things all the time. It's like, I think maybe we should do a separate episode on meal prepping because that is like the one thing that makes or breaks my week. I'm either like eating and feeling really good as a human, or I'm like stuffing leftover peanut butter sandwiches in my mouth because I don't have time to make something for myself. And that does not make me feel good.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, I've kind of obsessively watch YouTube videos about meal prepping. Yeah. And so I've got stuff in my fridge and I've got vegetables to grab. So yeah, so that's been a big one for a few years now, but I like cooking. So it's a big motivation for me. It's relaxing. So
that's good. I'm like, I can do it once a week and then I don't want to see the inside of a pot for the rest of it. But yeah, maybe a topic for another one.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So what's the one thing you wish you knew before you started your business?
Gosh, there's so many things.
Okay, well tell us a couple then.
I know, but it's like some of it is like, just how do I organize, my day to make sure I do all the things I hate. So,
it sounds so bad to say. I swear we love being entrepreneurs, though.
I know, but like there's all those little the finance things. Not my favorite.
I feel you.
Yeah. But you got to do it, and it is good once it's done. I feel really good once I'm accomplished. So it's I think it's just figuring out that it's scheduling maybe a 15-minute little startup there is good, but I don't know. And then the other parts of things, and I still don't know, is how to best market myself. Okay. So those are some things I'm still working through, but it's kind of a weird space to market because I really just need to see what people need and have good conversations and get in front of them. And so that's kind of a tricky thing is how do you get in front of people? Because that's, where do you meet these people? Who are your clients? That sort of thing. So it's tricky, but I think again it evolves like you said before, it evolves what you need. Like, so when you're starting up, you meet everybody. It's like, just talk to anybody and everybody. And then as you get going, it's like, okay, well, now I start to understand where my client is or at least who they are, maybe not where they are, but, and you start trying different things and then figuring out, what works best. But ultimately, the more people you see, the more connections you have, the better, because it is word of mouth. It is who you know.
It is so true. So true. So what's your go-to way to connect with new people?
So I've been heavily involved in Chamber of Commerce, and that's been a huge help for me. And now I'm working in a nice co-working space. And so I've met a lot of people through there. But I mean, ultimately, it's just getting out in the community. I volunteer a lot. And I just kind of start meeting people. I'm starting to develop and figure out how to work LinkedIn a little bit to make some cold connections.
Okay.
Not my favorite thing to do in the world. Nope. Another work in process.
Yep, that's fair.
But yeah, so my favorite way is going to networking events because I enjoy those. I'm one of those weird people that likes networking. So that's probably my favorite way, but trying a few different things. So yeah.
You mentioned that you're working in a co-working space, and since we're both very community focused, I thought it would be nice to give a shout out. We're actually recording our podcast today at the Atrium in St. Thomas. That's the co-working space. So if you haven't been yet and you're listening and local, then you definitely should check it out. My productivity is like 150% when I'm here compared to the like 25% I usually operate at home.
Yep, absolutely.
So kind of along the lines of things you wish you knew before you started, what was one of the biggest mistakes or failures that you made in your business, and what did you learn from it? I think one of the biggest reasons people avoid the step into entrepreneurship is because they're worried about these things. And I'm trying to help rephrase that, failure and missteps are not as bad and as world ending as, we think they are until we make them.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's like the trial and error for like how I quote things, and it's like you overquote, you underquote, you don't have the right follow-up to things, and so that's been where I probably made the most mistakes. I probably will still continue to make them, but it is a trial and error, and if I could live and do all of this for free, I would. However, unfortunately, I have to make a living, and so it's definitely not my favorite part, and it's where you can make a lot of missteps. But that one, and like just keeping on top of that grant paperwork, I've kind of had to do some scrambles at the end of the tax year every year.
Yep.
So that just kind of getting some kind of a rhythm around that. Like those are two like ones that I continually like to make. But I think it's really, you just have to kind of keep moving forward. It's never going to be this upward trajectory all the time. You're going to fall. Like you're going to have slumps. You're going to have time where business is slow or not working right, or you try something new. But it's like, where you want to go and you know what you want to be. And you got to keep pushing forward if it's something you really want. And I think that that's really the key there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the show The Good Place, but their version of time is like some very weird infinite squiggle that has a lot of backwards and ups and downs. You should look it up. I forget what they call it, but that is what I would map out as entrepreneurship. You're like all over the board all the time. So what are you doing in your business right now, or what can we expect to kind of see from you in the future? You touched a little bit about on some of the coaching and mentoring that you do.
Yep. So depending on when this comes out, I've got a webinar coming out through Elgin County on stress management. So that's March 22nd. So not sure if we'll get it out before then, but
we'll try.
And then I've got a leadership course starting in April, held at the Atrium or online. So we always do a combination of virtual and in person, just to get more people involved and touch more lives and companies. So that's coming up in April, and that's a 6-month program.
Okay.
And so we've got that going on, and then a couple of things kind of with the Atrium group that I'm going to start working on in the future. So,
exciting.
Yeah.
I like it. So for those of you that are listening, I really want to note, and I'll have Kristina touch on this too, but leadership training doesn't have to just be if you manage a team. As an entrepreneur, even if you're a solopreneur, developing your leadership skills can actually really benefit your business.
Absolutely. I've actually had a number of solopreneurs come through, and they use it. They love it because it's their learning skills to help them. And a lot of the stuff so parenting, leadership, sales, they're all very similar because it's about relationships and it's about how you approach things and how you show up. And so it all applies. And so the skills that you learn in leadership about how to work one-on-one are very useful in how to work with a client or a customer, or how to get the most out of that relationship and really, make sure you're understanding their needs before you're giving them, a product or trying to push a product to them. So it's all very similar skills. So.
Yeah. And I think for the big one with me, when I started developing my leadership skills, it also increased my confidence, which is huge as a business owner. Because if you're not confident in who you are and the service that you offer and the value you provide for your customer, you're not going to end up getting the clients and the traction with your business, because people are going to sense that there's some underlying hesitation.
Yes. Yeah. Because we sense those things. And so again, whether we're kids or clients or customers, we can tell when people are not being themselves or they're not telling it, they're holding something back or not being authentic. So yeah, there's definitely a lot there that we can sense.
For sure.
Yeah.
I noticed it a lot at home too, because I work remotely for the most part. So I don't see my clients face to face a lot. But on days where I'm really stressed out or having a bad day from work, my kids inevitably, without fail, those are the days where they're acting up, and it's just a struggle on both fronts. And I think they're picking up on the stress and the tension that I'm carrying because of what I'm doing. And I think people underestimate a lot of how much you can read in body language and the vibe that you give out. And I think that can impact your selling ability in your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely you can. Yeah. I feel that as well. It seems when it rains, it pours.
Yep. Yep. And it's not just in April for April showers.
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite tool, app, or resource to help you as a solopreneur?
Ooh. Probably the biggest apps and tools I use my QuickBooks, and I use LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah.
So probably the two biggest things I'm doing. But yeah, that's what I'm using right now. So
okay,
yeah.
those are good ones.
Yeah,
QuickBooks is it keeps me organized.
I don't know if it's my favorite one, but
no,
it's there.
No,
yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of finances either. Okay, I like this question. So, what is the best thing that you've manifested for yourself or for your business that you're really proud of?
I think that I've done a great job of really just getting my business out in the community. When I started, I was already part of the chamber when I started being an entrepreneur. But just really getting out there and kind of getting myself out there and saying, hey, this is what I do. I'm going to help you improve your business, and just kind of getting a persona out there, I guess, in person. That online one is a little harder, but yeah. But yeah, really just kind of getting the name out there, getting my name out there, and getting people working with me and knowing who I am. So yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. And I mean, good for you. You've done really great things with your business so far, because you said you started in 2018.
Yeah, but I was kind of doing something different. I was doing a little bit, I was doing more of a technical focus. And so on lean manufacturing skills. And so that's process improvements. And so, and it's what I did when I was in manufacturing for some of it. But now I'm doing more of the soft skills development. And so ultimately I do offer both to my clients, but I do focus more on the soft skills because that's where you're going to get real big bang. If you can master the soft skills, then you can grab any tool and get it implemented. And so it's really about getting your culture right and kind of setting the stage for the culture of your business. And what is that vision, both around the product, but around how your team interacts and how you interact with your clients and really how people interact with your business. And so all of that matters, and all of that builds your culture.
Okay. So if an entrepreneur wanted to work on one thing that could help with that, what would you recommend?
It depends so much on what they need.
Okay.
So when we define, if you don't goal set well, then I would say start goal setting a little
Okay.
bit. But all that can be in those small daily habits.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess figure out where you're struggling and find one thing that you can do to make it better, and one small thing. So, we all want to make these gross changes, like think New Year's resolutions that fail by February 4th, or January 4th.
I was going to say, hey, if you make it to February, that's
pretty good.
actually pretty good. Yeah.
January 4th. But really, we can't do that. Our bodies can't do that. Our minds can't do that. And it doesn't sustain. So if you make a small little incremental change, and doing those little changes will help you be better at goal setting. And then you'll kind of find, where do I need to put my next effort in? And you start just continually driving that. And those, as they say in Atomic Habits, like those 1% changes, right? And so you keep making those tiny changes and they really add up. All of these books, all the leadership, all our sales training, everything is really just around building those daily habits. And that's, we say habits, we form our habits and then our habits form us. And so we are a product of our habits. So it's kind of scary when you think about that.
A little bit. 'Cause there are some habits that my parents have that I can't say that I want to replicate. But
Exactly. Yes. There's habits that I have that I don't want to keep doing. It's like, okay, well, do I want a social media habit where I just go and veg on the couch? No, I don't. I don't want that for me. So it's one of those, you got to take the small changes though, because that's the only sustainable way.
And I think habits too played a huge part into parenting as well. So is there a really good example you have of how you've kind of implemented some of those small changes and it's impacted your parenting?
Yes, actually. So my son is 6, my older one. And so he, we've got a nice little routine when we get home. So when he gets home after picking him up from daycare or after school, takes his lunch out, starts reading his little reading book, and then he can relax and have some tablet time. So that's kind of just a tiny one. But then for myself, it's just habits around how I get their lunches ready and how I get them up. I've got little alarms on my phone that just say, go wake them up now and get your boots on. So all of those things have been working wonders for me this year. And so those have been recent changes, the little alarms, but that's been a huge help. So I'm trying to carry, it ends up when you start working on these things that it just trickles through your whole life. And so once you start, you build momentum and then you just start really grabbing hold. Yeah, that's really impacted.
I was going to say, I could see how that impacts your business too, because, you're getting your kids off to school, you're setting your morning up right. You're going to head into work at that point on time for starters and also not frustrated because things have gone well in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They say that, you have to own your day and be the boss of your day and not let the day own you. And that's huge. I know on days where I don't get to do my morning routine, I am grumpy before I even start working. And that, clouds everything that I do for the day.
Yes, absolutely. It does. So I was finding that I was screaming at them to get out the door, and it was probably 80% my fault because I didn't tell them to get up early enough, And so I was like, okay, I've got to do something different. So I just started with the alarms, and now the kids love routine. And so they grabbed hold of it really well, and just, they hear the alarm, and now my now 4-year-old likes to run and go. He's like, Ethan, go get your stuff up. The alarm's going off. So they help. When you put the habits in, they'll help enforce them now once they get used to them. So
is that a younger sibling thing? I notice my youngest too. I'll be like, okay, girls, it's time to do something. And then my youngest will run off to be like, okay, we need to go and do this now, to her older sister. And I was like, why do you listen better than her? My oldest is 3 and I consider her my youngest, but she's actually my middle child now. She's 2. So I was like, this is such good listening skills on a 2-year-old. Why can't my 3-year-old have this too?
They just want to be the boss.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. But they model us though. Just like in our businesses, our team will model us. And so it's, they're trying to do what we do. And so it's the same thing because they get to be big people now, especially at 2 and 3, 4.
Yes. Oh man, do they have big emotions some days?
Well, I thought of another mistake I made.
Yeah. Go for it.
So I think I can't believe I forgot this one, but I'm big on process, and you have to follow a process. And I think that's been the biggest mistake is when I don't get business, it's because I didn't follow my own process. So set processes up in your business, and that will help you a ton, and follow them, because that's probably the biggest thing. So that was one little thing little snippet there that I think has helped.
Yeah.
So,
what kind of processes do you have for your business then?
So, I mean, they're not really well written down yet, but
okay.
I do have a sales process I follow. So through the Achievement Center, we do a sales training as well. So I follow the rough outline of that process, and it does work. So when I follow it and I do it consistently, it works. And so I'm working on developing that cold call and prospecting process there, where I've got like a daily habit, and kind of fell apart this week, but
it is March break, so like a lot of things fall apart.
It is. And the one thing with habits, it's okay if you miss a day, just start again tomorrow. So I know when I first started some of my habits, I failed miserably on like the first month, do slightly better the second month. And if I can keep the motivation going, that third month is like where it gets set in. So that it takes time with all of that stuff. So,
and I think that's huge in all areas of life too, like in business, but also like personally. So I know anytime I'm like, I really need to get in better shape, like it'll be good for my health, it'll be good for my self-esteem. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym, 5 days a week. And then Wednesday hits and you don't go to the gym, and you're like, well, that's it for this week. But if the habit is just to go and not the end result, then oftentimes I think you'll stick with it more because it's not tied to, it's not success or failure. Like there is a middle area, like I'm being consistent, and whether I go or not go, as long as I continue trying to be consistent the next day, I think that's what helps.
Exactly. And just know that like, if you're going 0 times a week and you went 3 times or even 2 times this week, you're that much better than you were last week. Right. And so I think that one keeps me going a lot, that, you know what, I am not a failure because I'm trying something new, and trying new things is hard. And it takes time. And so give yourself some grace and realize that it takes time to build the habit. And so going from 0 to 5 is tough. And maybe it's too big of a step first, And so understanding the smallness of the steps that we need to take to get there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. By the way, I do not recommend going from 0 to 5 days a week of working out. Your body's going to hate you by day 2, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think habits are really key to a lot of things, and having that structure and the routine in general.
Absolutely.
So since we've talked a little bit about that, what is your structure for the day?
So I get up at 5.
Oh,
I know.
You're one of those ones.
I know.
So the 5 a.m. book club did pay off then.
Okay, it's an awful story. So I don't recommend the story, but the content in it is good. So I got it from the library and I listened to it. So that was the way to go. So,
all right.
And I listened to it at fast speed. So shout out to the public library that you can download books and listen to them too.
Yeah.
But so I get up at 5. I do like a 35-minute YouTube workout that's been new this year. I do a little bit of reading. So I read and pray the Bible. And then I start doing my dishes. I just unload the dishwasher. I get breakfast and my coffee ready, and I get the kids' lunches packed. So that's kind of like my morning. Then it's like, kids are up, get them out. And then depends on the day. So some days I've got a course. So I know obviously I'll go do that. But typically I'll arrive into the co-working space around 9 after everybody's dropped off. And then I look at my plan for the day. And if it's Monday, I spend a longer time kind of doing the weekly plan. And then I just start attacking. I usually try to pick one hard thing, and I do that first thing in the morning. And then I have a couple easier things that I can do through the day. So usually afternoon, I like making phone calls just because I like talking to people. So it re-energizes my lull in the day, we'll say. But yeah, that's kind of the basic routine. And then I try to wrap things up around 4:30 or 5, grab the kids, make dinner. And then my routine falls apart. But
fair.
Yeah, and I would say I'm not terribly consistent on the day, but we'll get there. We're working on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
I think the really key thing in that is just knowing yourself too, because you're like, making calls re-energizes me. I'd be like, man, that is not what I want to do at that 3 o'clock when I feel like I need to take a nap. That would be like my hard project that I'd have to do first thing in the morning. So really like knowing your strengths. I think,
absolutely. Yeah, I know. I like the social and the talking things. So that helps me a ton.
Well, it's been great chatting with you, Kristina. If people want to learn more about you and how they can develop some of their leadership skills and things like that, how do they find you?
So a great way is on LinkedIn. So again, just find me Kristina Schmitt. So it's Kristina with a K and Schmitt with 2 T's, no D, as they like to say. And then if you want to learn more about the Achievement Center, it's tacresults.com. And so you can sign up for blogs there and get weekly articles about leadership and strategy and sales and business transitions. So it's a good way to do that. And just a little plug, I do have a leadership course coming up starting on April 12th. And so that's a 6-month course where we meet every other week for a few hours. And it's about behavior change and building those small habits. So it's really good for that accountability. So, and that's why we take it out for that 6-month course. So.
Perfect. No, that makes sense. And it takes time to develop habits too. Everyone's like, 14 to 21 days. It's like, no. Yeah. It takes a little bit longer than that. So having the extra accountability is really good.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. And if you liked listening to us chat today, then be sure to give this a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Share a snippet of it with your friends on your favorite social channel, and make sure you tag us at Brittany Miller Socials for me. Are you on Instagram?
But TAC is. The Achievement Center is.
Okay. All right. There you go. We could do that. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media, and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller Socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.